everyone knows, we're tracking a major storm with blizzard conditions, and we're here at this sanitation garage to emphasize that we are going to need the good men and women of the sanitation department to do the work they do better than ever before, because we're going to be hit with a tremendous challenge in the coming hours. And our sanitation workers have been outstanding in recent storms, and we need them to do that again. I want to go over the facts with you as we know them now. First of all, the worst of this situation we expect to be in the early morning hours. So right now, snow should begin between midnight and 1 a.m. with the most intensive accumulation beginning somewhere in the area of 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and continuing at a very high level for the hours thereafter. We've heard reports from the National Weather Service of as much as 2 inches to 4 inches per hour. Now, if you remember recent storms, 4 inches per hour is an extraordinarily high level of accumulation. We expect this storm overall to be in the range of 16 inches to 20 inches of snow. The high end right now remains, according to the last National Weather Service report, as much as 24 inches. That is a huge amount of snow, and again, a lot of it will happen in a very concentrated period of time. For that reason, I'm declaring a state of emergency in New York City, commencing at 12 midnight tonight. So state of emergency will go into effect, clarifying the ability of the NYPD and all agencies to act as needed to ensure the safety of all New Yorkers and to ensure that we can keep our roads clear for emergency vehicles. We're going to be working very hard in the coming hours to get everything in place to ensure that we're ready to handle this storm. But I want everyone to know that that state of emergency will be in effect as of midnight. Now, I want to thank all of the leaders of the different agencies that will be part of this response. Of course, you'll hear in a moment from our Sanitation Commissioner, Catherine Garcia, and again, thank you to all the men and women of the Sanitation Department we're depending on so much right now. Our Fire Commissioner, Dan Nigro, our Emergency Management Commissioner, Joe Esposito, Social Services Commissioner, Steve Banks, Chief of Patrol, NYPD, Terry Monahan, Leon Hayward, Deputy Commissioner, DOT, Liam Kavanaugh, Deputy Commissioner, Parks, the General Manager of the Housing Authority, Michael Kelly, Dan Zarilli, our Senior Director for Climate and Resiliency. I also want to thank Councilmember Antonio Reynoso, Chair of the Sanitation Committee in the City Council, for being here with us. So we expect an intense accumulation of snow. We expect, obviously, very cold temperatures. There will be, once the snow accumulates, there will be nonstop plowing going on all over New York City, but I want people to understand, because of the intensive accumulation, do not expect to see blacktop for quite a while as we proceed during tomorrow. I think it's going to be normal to see a lot of streets where the snow covers the streets throughout the day as sanitation tries to deal with a vast volume of snow coming in. Hopefully, as we get into the evening tomorrow, sanitation will gain the advantage. But for the daytime hours tomorrow, do not expect to see a lot of blacktop in New York City. And most importantly, New Yorkers should stay off the roads. This is a very important point for your own safety, given the frigid temperatures, the huge amount of snow in a short period of time, the wind, which I'll talk about in a moment. Stay off the streets, for your own good, for your own safety, but also to help the sanitation department to keep the streets clear. If you must go out, do so for as limited a time period as possible. If you need to travel, use mass transit if at all possible. But the best thing to do is stay in if you can stay in. We do expect, in addition, some coastal flooding. Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning, is expected in parts of Staten Island, southern Brooklyn, and southern Queens. And then tomorrow evening in parts of the Bronx and northern Queens. So we are going to be on guard for flooding conditions, and we will be ready to respond to those. All people who live in areas prone to flooding, please be on alert. Now, I mentioned the winds. These winds will make it even less safe and will make travel even more difficult. Gusts as high as 40 to 50 miles an hour are being predicted. So that's an extraordinary amount of wind. People have to be ready for that. Sanitation Department will be starting its activities at 7 p.m. this evening, so very shortly. 12-hour split shifts, 2,400 workers per shift, 689 salt spreaders will be pre-deployed. And then again, when you have accumulation of snow of about 2 inches, the plows go to work. 1,600 plows from the Sanitation Department will be deployed. In addition, Department of Transportation will provide 80 more plows and 400 personnel to assist in this effort. And as I mentioned earlier today, 283,000 tons of rock salt on hand, so we're doing very well in terms of our salt supply. As I declared earlier today, our public schools will be closed tomorrow. In addition, all after-school programs, PSAL programs, and adult education programs will be closed as well. We heard earlier the decision by the MTA shutting down outdoor subway service at 4 a.m., but underground subway service will continue as of now. Bus service will continue, but will be reduced as much as 30%. We have not yet heard the decision by the MTA related to the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. We will monitor that later on and see what that decision is. And as of this moment, no major state roads have been closed, but we expect to have further discussions with the state later in the evening to determine whether that will be necessary. As for alternate side parking, suspended Tuesday and Wednesday, so another reason to keep your cars where they are, keep them off the streets. I want to encourage everyone to look out for your neighbors, particularly your elderly or sick neighbors. If anyone doesn't have heat and hot water, call 311. That's vital so we can get you help right away. These are the basic updates that we have now. We are going to have more information around 10 p.m. tonight from the National Weather Service. And between our consultations with the state later on this evening and that update at 10 p.m., we'll be able to say if we need to take any additional measures. Just a few words in Spanish. Estamos siguiendo una gran nevada que llegará esta noche a nuestra ciudad. Estamos dando los pasos necesarios para mantener a todos los neoyorquinos seguros. Si tienen que salir, por favor, usen el transporte público. Cuídense y cuiden a sus vecinos. With that, I'd like you to hear from our Emergency Management Commissioner, Joe Esposito.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to what the Mayor already spoke about, our Emergency Operations Center will be open at 8 o'clock tonight. 34 agencies with close to 100 staff members will be there, and they'll be there to gather information and deal with any issues that may arise. We've been hosting daily interagency conference calls with city and state agencies and public and private partners to coordinate preparation for the storm. National Weather Service has embedded a meteorologist in our shop. They'll be there until this event is over. We have 2 meteorologists that work in split tours, and they're in our Emergency Operations Center to give us up-to-date information. Our tow truck task force has been activated tonight. Our down tree task force is ready to be activated if that should be needed. Additional personnel at our warehouse in Brooklyn are there to, in the event that we have to deploy any equipment, such as generators, light towers, pumps, cots, etc. For more information and updates to the weather, we actually go to sign up for Notify NYC. That's the city's free emergency notification system, and you can do that by either going to nyc.gov or calling 311. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now our Sanitation Commissioner, Catherine Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to reiterate again that while the Department of Sanitation is working and plowing to really please stay off the roads, we anticipate that there will be whiteout conditions through some of the storm tomorrow. Also, please, as you are going about your day, try not to push snow back into the street that's been recently plowed, because that can make it dangerous for other motorists. As the Mayor mentioned, we will have over 1,600 plows, 689 spreaders, and we will be joined by DOT as well as the Parks Department and DEP, who will supply additional equipment and people. So we anticipate having well over 2,500 plows and spreaders on the roads tomorrow during the height of the storm. Also, because the depths are projected to be so high, we will be using our V-plows as well as rolling out our front-end loaders. We have also notified the Parks Department to make sure that our 16 snow dumps are available, and anticipate, because the weather is not going to get warmer, we don't anticipate there will be melting, that we will have to roll out our very large snow melters in order to deal with the volume of snow that will be here. So I want to thank everyone who will be assisting us, and I also want to just thank all of the workers at the Department of Sanitation who have a tough night and a tough day ahead tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions? Questions? Yes.
Considering the 4 inch per hour potential, and is a driving ban still a possibility? Or still
We're going to have a conversation with the state later on. I expect to talk to the governor this evening, and as I said, we'll have a 10 o'clock update from the National Weather Service. Between that conversation with the governor and the update, I think we'll have all the information we need to decide if we need to go the next step to a travel ban. So the current projections are high enough to justify it. We want to see one more report to see if those are holding.
Mayor, Commissioner Mercy also, I wonder, after every one of these storms is mostly about managing people's expectations. There's always like a pocket somewhere where
Right.
people feel like they weren't served properly.
Go ahead. What's your question?
The most recent storms.
Look, I'll start and turn to the Commissioner. You're exactly right. There's always going to be some place where people don't feel they got all the service they wanted. Our job is to do better every time. Over the last few years, we recognized that we needed better equipment. We needed more equipment. We needed smaller equipment for certain types of streets, in the outer boroughs in particular. We needed to do some things differently to provide better service. I think we've improved with each storm, and I want to credit the men and women of the Sanitation Department because they have been outstanding, and I think their performance has improved each time. But we're always going to try and learn, and if we get complaints, we take them seriously. If something isn't as good as it should be, we're going to act on it. And part of what I'll do in the morning is I will be traveling around to look for what's working and what's not so we can make those adjustments.
So the mayor's absolutely right. Every storm is different, how it comes in, what the intensity looks like. We deploy our resources really based on the amount of lane miles in the city of New York to make sure that we roll out the door with our posture being very equitable. But I want to credit some of the technology that we've been implementing that's helping us determine whether we're falling behind in certain areas. And so we think that makes us better every single time. Thank you.
One other point before the next question. We will also move assets around accordingly if we see an area that needs more support. We did that in the last big storm. That helped a lot. We'll be ready to do that again this time. Questions? Questions, Jillian?
Have you heard anything about any potential for further mass transit shutdowns that have already been projected? And do you have any level of concern about, even subway closures causing people to get their feet?
It's a challenge always, Jillian. I think the decision so far makes sense because if the accumulation is what we're hearing, those overground subway lines would be undermined anyway. They would be, paralyzed eventually, and it makes sense not to take that risk and keep the equipment safe. The bus route reduction, I think, also makes sense, but hopefully if people stay off the road, sanitation will be able to do its job, and that will keep the streets clear enough for buses at least to have some impact. I've not heard anything that suggests the underground lines would be compromised, but again, we want to hear another report around 10 o'clock. Look, they informed us of the decision on the subway. We agree with that decision, but obviously we want to see real coordination before any decision on a travel ban or anything like that.
Last year there was an issue with the roads being plowed with sidewalks being very icy still or having only narrow patches with shoulders or is there any precedent?
Look, first of all, I'm a homeowner in Brooklyn. Everyone who is a homeowner or anyone who is a store owner is responsible for their own sidewalk. So when it comes to public safety, homeowners and store owners need to take responsibility and clear their sidewalks for everyone's good. In the first day of the storm, we're not going to be in a position to do enforcement of those kind of regulations. There'll be too much going on. In the coming days, we will enforce aggressively, as we have in the past. But I think this is a matter of people, taking responsibility, realizing that what they do has a huge impact on the safety of their neighbors, of senior citizens, of parents with strollers, get out there and do what you need to do to keep your own sidewalk clear. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Based on the forecast, are you going to be deploying resources strategically, and are there any sections of the city where you think you might send more plows based on the accumulation zone?
Well, obviously going to see that play out, so I'll turn to Joe Esposito and Catherine Garcia to see if they've heard of any regional variations. So far, because we don't have a firm enough final estimate of what's going to happen, it's too early to tell. Again, I think that 10 o'clock forecast tonight is going to tell us a lot. We have seen that in past storms, variations around the city of several inches of snow. And that does sometimes tell us how to deploy differently. But right now, as the commissioner said, we're going to assume similar circumstances all over the city and deploy a normal package of equipment. You want to add?
Absolutely. So there's nothing in what we've heard from any of the meteorologists that suggests that not everyone's going to receive a lot of snow. We will be monitoring, though, every 2 hours to make sure that we have the right pieces of equipment in the right place. Our desire is to make sure that we are agile during the course of this emergency.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? All right, looking around, going once, twice. Okay, we'll have an update for you later on this evening. Thanks, everyone.